Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we're reading Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 13, text number 187 through 197. Hare Krishna. The Lord's dancing at Rath Yatra. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya informed the king, "The Lord is very satisfied with you. By pointing you out, he was teaching his personal associates how to behave with mundane people." Purport. Although outwardly the king was a mundane man interested in money and women, internally he was purified by devotional activities. He showed this by engaging as a street sweeper to please Lord Jagannath. A person may appear to be a pounds and shilling man interested in money and women, but if he is actually very meek and humble and surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is not mundane. Such a judgment can be made only by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his very confidential devotees. As a general principle, however, no devotee should intimately mix with mundane people interested in money and women. So the king is sweeping the road in front of the Lord as the cart is rolling, and at our Rath Yatras there's usually always a street sweeper, also with broom and sometimes dressed in kingly regalia. Translation. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya continued, "I shall submit your petition when there is an opportune moment." In other words, for him to speak to the king, just for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to speak to the king. "It will then be easy for you to come and meet the Lord." Translation. After circumambulating Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went behind the car and began pushing it with his head. Translation. As soon as he pushed, the car immediately started to move, making a rattling sound. The people all around began to chant the name of the Lord, Hari, Hari. So we know that the cart moves by the will of the Lord, that if Krishna, Jagannath, does not want the cart to move, there is no one that can make it move. There's one such instance when the cart stopped in front of the home of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati when he was just a babe, and stayed there for days and wouldn't move. And his mother came and placed the newborn baby at the lotus feet of the Lord, and the garland fell from Lord Jagannath and circled Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And then the cart moved. As the car began to move, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his personal associates in front of the cars occupied by Lord Balaram and Subhadra, the goddess of fortune. Greatly inspired, he then began to dance in front of them. Translation. After finishing the dance before Lord Baladev and Subhadra, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came before Lord Jagannath's car. Upon seeing Lord Jagannath, he began to dance again. Translation. Then they reached the place called Balagandi. Lord Jagannath stopped his car and began to look left and right. So in this place called Balagandi, there is a temple called Mausima Temple. And it's pretty much the halfway point between the Jagannath Temple and Gundicha Temple. And Mausima means auntie. And this is the maternal aunt of Krishna, so would be Devaki's sister. And once when Puri was being flooded by the ocean, anyone that lives near the ocean knows there's dangers of flooding in rivers, and we've just seen catastrophes happening. So Mausima saved Jagannath Puri, saved the whole of Puri by transforming, and she drank half of the water. She lowered the level of the flood by half as she drank. So she's known as Ardra Shoshini, and Ardra means half. She drank half, and Shoshini means that she sipped or she drank this. So she saved Puri from a flood. This is also a very famous, it's a very good stopping place for the cart, where there's some prasadam that is served and everyone is fed there. And there's a sweet that is served. It's made from jaggery, coconut, and something else, but it's a sweet that everyone that the temple is very famous for. And it's also the place where Subhadra was. She was visiting auntie. Subhadra was visiting auntie, and Jagannath and Balaram had stayed behind, and Subhadra stayed, and she was visiting auntie. And there's a story that Jagannath and Balaram made some offense to the goddess Lakshmi. And so when they went to the kitchen for something to eat, because who's in charge of the kitchen is Lakshmi, there was nothing in the kitchen. So they had to go out and beg, and they were begging, but because they had this stain on their face of offending Lakshmi, no one would give them anything to eat. They would go to doors and everyone would close their door. Bandehe, nothing. No, don't come in. Don't let me even see your face. You have offended Lakshmi. But one old lady, she took some pity on them, and she prepared something, but when she gave it to them, it was immediately spoiled. So they were begging everywhere, Krishna, Balaram, nothing to eat, where do we go? And someone said, oh, you go down here to this nice temple, and there's this, it's beautiful temple, and there they have a full kitchen. You can go there and take something to eat. And so Krishna and Balaram, they went there, and it was Balaram, when they found out it was a Chandala temple. And that was the whole thing of why they had offended Lakshmi, because Lakshmi had gone and taken home from a very nice Chandala lady, a lower caste lady. And Balaram was like, you can't come back here, you can't come and cook for us. You've associating with someone of lower class. And so then they were, that was their offense to Lakshmi. And so when they went to this temple and Balaram saw that it was a Chandala temple, who was a stickler for rules and regulations, he was like, no, we can't eat there. And Krishna's saying, but we're hungry, we have to eat something. And he says, okay, well, you give us the bhog, and we'll cook for ourselves. You do that. So they said, okay, so Lakshmi arranged that the bhog was given, but nobody could light the fire. So there was no cooking that went on. So Balaram was, they ended up eating there at the temple. So this is Mausima Temple, that the carts stop at for rest. On the translation, on the left side, Lord Jagannath saw a neighborhood of Brahmins and a coconut tree grove. On the right side, he saw nice flower gardens resembling those in the holy place of Vrindavan. Purport: Vipra Shashana is a word generally used in the Orissa province to indicate the quarters where Brahmins live. Brahmins also live in this area. Translation: Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees were dancing in front of the car, and Lord Jagannath, having stopped the car, watched the dancing. Translation: It was customary that food be offered to the Lord at Viprashasana. Indeed, innumerable dishes of food were offered, and Lord Jagannath tasted each one of them. Translation: All kinds of devotees of Lord Jagannath, from neophytes to the most advanced, offered their best cooked food to the Lord. So I was told that to stop at this verse, and they would continue there tomorrow, but we can speak about other things. We still continue speaking about Rath Yatra. So I thought I'd like to speak about some of the very early Rath Yatras that we have had. Maybe one of the first ones that to speak of. Can someone please take? So one very beautiful pastime, Rath Yatra pastime, of course, is Prabhupada reminded me of, is Srila Prabhupada's very own first childhood Rath Yatra that he organized when he was just 6 years old. Abai, Srila Prabhupada's name, wanted to have his own cart, just a little boy, 6 years old. There's stories that Srila Prabhupada, when he was a little boy, he was favored by his father, and whatever he wanted, he usually got. There was one story that Prabhupada saw a gun, toy gun, in the shop, and so his father got him a gun, and then he had a big fit because he wanted 2 guns, one for each hand. So at this time, Srila Prabhupada, Abai, the boy Abai, he wanted a Rath Yatra cart. So here we go. There's a story. And so naturally, he turned to his father for help. His father, Gaur Mohan, agreed, but there were difficulties. When he took his son to several carpenter shops, he found out that he could not afford to have a cart made. On their way home in Kolkata, Abai began crying, and an old Bengali woman approached and asked him what the matter was. Gaur Mohan explained that the boy wanted a Rath Yatra car, but he couldn't afford to have one made. "Oh, I have a cart," the woman said, and she invited Gaur Mohan and Abai to her place and showed them the cart. It's amazing how Krishna steps in our lives at different times, just when you're looking, what should I do? Where is it, the thing that I need? And Krishna puts it right in front of you, right there. So the cart, it looked old, but it was still operable, and it was just the right size, about 3 feet high. We see the children's Rath Yatra that they have, the small carts. Interesting, one of the carts that they made and used for quite a few years was made out of Legos, and Lego has a Rath Yatra car now. You can buy online a Rath Yatra car. It's like Gaur Mohan purchased it and helped restore and decorate it. Father and son together constructed 16 supporting columns and placed a canopy on top, resembling as closely as possible the ones on the big cars at Puri. He also attached the traditional wooden horses and driver to the front of the car. So these wooden horses, think about that, these wooden horses, because this is going to come up later. They also attached the traditional wooden horses and driver to the front of the car, and Abai insisted that it must look authentic. Gurmahan bought paints, and Abai personally painted the car, copying the Puri originals. His enthusiasm was great, and he became an insistent organizer of various aspects of the festival. But when he tried making fireworks for the occasion from a book that gave illustrated descriptions of the process, his mother, Rajani, intervened. Abai engaged his playmates in helping him, especially his sister Bhavatarini, Srila Prabhupada's sister Bhavatarini. If anyone has ever met her, seen pictures of her, she looks very much like Srila Prabhupada. Same stature, heavier, glasses, dark glasses. Abai engaged, and when I saw her in Mayapur, and she always carried a little bottle of Gangajal with her. And whenever she would come into the temple room to sit down, she'd take out the Gangajal and sprinkle where she sat, and then she would sit down. Abai engaged his playmates in helping him, especially his sister Bhavatarini, and he became their natural leader. Responding to his entreaties, the amused mothers in the neighborhood agreed to cook special preparations so that they could distribute the prasad at his Rath Yatra festival. Like the festival at Puri, Abai's Rath Yatra ran for 8 consecutive days, and his family members gathered, and the neighborhood children joined in a procession, pulling the cart, playing drums and hand cymbals, and chanting. Wearing a dhoti and no shirt in the heat of summer, Abai led the children in chanting Hare Krishna and in singing the appropriate Bengali bhajan, Shikara Rai Kamalini. You notice amongst children, there's always one that's the leader, like that. There's always one that is pushing the other children forward. That is our Srila Prabhupada. So this song, this Bengali bhajan, the words go, what are you doing, Srimati Radharani? Please come out and see. They are stealing your dearmost treasure, Krishna, the black gem. If only the young girl knew. The young boy Krishna, treasure of her heart, is now forsaking her. It's like Krishna's going away, and this is like Radharani's like dearmost treasure. Abai copied whatever he had seen at adult religious functions, including dressing the deities. Srila Prabhupada said when in the San Francisco Rath Yatra, one of the first, the London Rath Yatras and our San Francisco Rath Yatra, the deities should be dressed so gorgeously, so beautifully, that everyone will be attracted. Including dressing the deities, offering food, offering artik with ghee lamp and incense, and making prostrated obeisances. From Harrison Ford, which is the road that Srila Prabhupada lived in, and interestingly enough, this name is, of course, the last name of George Harrison, who was very instrumental in supporting Srila Prabhupada in his mission. Prabhupada called him at one time Hari's son, because in this word Harrison, it's really Hari's son, right? From Harrison Road, the procession entered the circular road inside the courtyard of the Radha Govinda temple and stood a while before the deities. Seeing the fun, Gormahan's friends approached him. Why haven't you invited us? These are grown men, the adults. Why haven't you invited us? You are holding a big ceremony and you don't invite us? What is this? Oh, they're just children playing, his father replied. Oh, children playing, the men joked. You were depriving us by saying this is only for children? While Abai was ecstatically absorbed in the Rath Yatra processions, Gormaha spent money for 8 consecutive days, and Rajani cooked various dishes to offer along with flowers to Lord Jagannath. Although everything Abai did was imitation, his inspiration and steady drive for holding the festival was genuine. His spontaneous spirit sustained the 8-day children's festival, like a child, 6 years old, organizing. And each consecutive year brought a new festival, which Abai would observe in the same way. And that's an excerpt from an article in BTG, January 1982. So the very first Rath Yatra that we had here in the United States was San Francisco in 1967. There's a picture in maybe Guru Das's book of the sketch that Srila Prabhupada had made of what it should look like. And Prabhupada, sitting up in his room in San Francisco, had seen big semi-flatbed trucks going past. And he had this idea that, we can use these, we could make a Rath Yatra card on these. And he drew a picture that there was one deity facing this way, another facing this way, and another facing this way. So everyone coming, going could see the deity on the card. And Shama Sundar had carved deities at that time, as they had the models for them that Malati had found at Cost Plus. So this was our very first Rath Yatra in 1967. There was another Rath Yatra the next 2 years. And then in 1970, the San Francisco Rath Yatra exploded. This was the year that in back of the Frederick Street Temple, the devotees, tiny temple, tiny storefront temple, not even the Valencia Street Temple, which is where I joined, which was bigger. It was had formerly been a funeral home, a mortuary. It's forbidden in the Shastra that temples are made in funeral homes or places of death, but you can see that Prabhupada broke all the rules. He did what he had to do to further his mission and make this happen. So some of the temples were, I know Boston Temple was formerly a funeral home, Valencia Street, San Francisco. So in 1970, Frederick Street Temple, this is where Madhavisa, Naranarayan, Lochan, Jayananda, they all converged together to make this happen. Jayananda instrumental in building the three carts in back of a tiny storefront. And these carts, the carts formerly, the year before, they were 35 feet high. This cart was 60 feet high. 65 feet high. And when Srila Prabhupada found out that the cart was 60 feet high, he was here in Los Angeles, and he told one of the servants, call Naranarayan and find out what he's doing about lowering the canopy, because it needs to be done. And so one of the servants called and they said, well, Naranarayan, Prabhupada wants to ask, we know you have it together and, like this, but Prabhupada is asking, how will you lower the canopy? And I got it together, it's like, and then he's like, I don't know. And he was thinking and Madhavisa and Lochan and Jayananda, and they sat for it was days and days of thinking, how do we do this? And then they saw an umbrella. They thought of an umbrella, well, what goes up and down like this? And they thought of an umbrella, and so that became the inspiration for the carts going up and down. And the mechanism has been improved upon since that time, but that was the inspiration, was the umbrella. And this was, in 1970, this was the biggest Rath Yatra, besides the Rath Yatra that was held in London in 1970, at that time also. So this cart had to go under 15-foot bridges, and Naranarayan's father, who was a Holocaust survivor, made four big horses, like Srila Prabhupada had made, and to go in front of the carts. Made four big horses, paper mache, wood, balsa, I'm not sure what they were made of. They look, in the pictures, they look a little bit lumpy, so there might have been some plaster and paper mache there also. And he painted them black with like wild eyes and like smoldering manes. And when Narayan's mother saw the card, she says, "Oh no, this will never do." And she got out a bucket of white paint and she repainted the horses white with like carousel horses, you know. So she made them look, and that was of course much better. But we have Narayan's parents. He felt like he had all the blessings of the Pitris, the forefathers, you know, coming to help with this Rath Yatra. You can watch this video, the 1970 Rath Yatra, in the following Srila Prabhupada DVDs, video number 2. So if anyone feels inclined. So Srila Prabhupada arrives in San Francisco, and this very, very famous picture of Srila Prabhupada up to here in gardenia garlands, white garlands, all white garlands. And it was from that, his arrival at San Francisco airport, that Bhavananda had petitioned all the temple presidents, if they wanted to offer a garland to Srila Prabhupada, they had to donate money to offer these white gardenia garlands. So this was the story behind all the white gardenias, and Srila Prabhupada is sitting with all these white gardenia garlands on. And this was also a year, landmark, that this was the year that Krishna book was presented to Srila Prabhupada. Brahmananda was working with Dainupan and flew in especially. The book was late. They didn't know if it was going to get done at that time. And they kept saying, "Oh, no, we can't finish." And Brahmananda, well, this is going to have serious repercussions for future business that we might do, you know. And so Dainupan, they produced Life magazine, and they were big printers. And Brahmananda is getting on the airplane, and he sees this black limousine with flags on it pull up as he's going up, and it was Dainupan with one box of Krishna book that they had printed especially so that Brahmananda could take it and give it to Srila Prabhupada at this 1970 Rath Yatra. So this is what happened. And when he got on the plane, he had the book on his lap, and he opened it up and looked at it, and there was a businessman sitting next to him. And the businessman said, "Oh, what do you have there?" And he said, "These are the books from my spiritual master." And it was the first books with color plates, this Krishna book, first book. And so the businessman said, "How much?" And Brahmananda said $10, which was a good amount, and at that time. And so he says, "I'll take one." So Brahmananda sold the first copy to this businessman, right, sitting right next to him. And when he presented the box to Srila Prabhupada, it was opened with one book missing. And Srila Prabhupada said, "Why one book is missing?" And Brahmananda said, "Oh, he had sold one to the gentleman sitting next to him on the airplane." And Prabhupada said, "Oh, this is very auspicious." And so he said, all of these books, the whole case, should be distributed at this Rath Yatra, which it was. So the carts were made, and they're rolling out in the street, and there was some disturbance that was being threatened by the Black Panthers at this time. They were threatening Srila Prabhupada that this is not going to go on. We will cause some disturbance. And they did. They did. The devotees were fighting them with poles, with their flag poles. And they finally, they let, and everyone kept saying to Srila Prabhupada, Madhuvisa, and they all, "Prabhupada, you can't come to the festival, you can't come." And at the beginning there was this disturbance, but the disturbance was dissipated, and the carts rolled on through Golden Gate Park, huge carts, and Srila Prabhupada drove ahead of the cart in Golden Bay. Mind you, this is a 7-mile route. The car had no brakes. It was being pulled by ropes. The cars were being pulled along by devotees. They had to, stop the wheels. There's hills in San Francisco, right? So this was an undertaking by Krishna's mercy. So Bhavananda, who was very flamboyant, he bought this beautiful fabric for Srila Prabhupada. It was like a upholstery, shimmery silk fabric for Srila Prabhupada's dhoti. A new shirt was made for Srila Prabhupada. In those days they were making cowboy shirts for Prabhupada, not kurtas, but cowboy shirts, collars, lapels, cuffed shirts. And Bhavananda insisted that the buttons in the shirt be pearl. It had to be pearl buttons. You can see this shirt up in Srila Prabhupada's quarter with the pearl buttons. If it's not that one, it's one like it, but it's probably that one. And Madhavisa, who was in charge of the finances, is pulling his hair out because Bhavananda wants money for pearl buttons for Prabhupada's hat, his little hat that he had. And how many buttons down? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 buttons, pearls. So Srila Prabhupada saw the clothes that Bhavananda had provided for him, and he said, "As you dress me, so I shall dance." Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada drove ahead at this Rath Yatra and then walked back to meet the carts. And then by this time the disturbance had dissipated. The Hells Angels were pulling up the flank. They were in the rear on their motorcycles, who are our friends, They were friends of the devotees. They bought a wolf stove. Everyone know what a wolf stove is in a kitchen. It's like top grade, They bought a wolf stove for the temple, one of the temples, San Francisco, at the time. So they were friends. They attended the festival, and they were actually protectors and guardians in that way. So Srila Prabhupada walked back to the festival, to the carts as they're rolling, and he started jumping and dancing, and then he saw that the kirtaniyas were on the carts. They were all mic'd up, singing, chanting, and Prabhupada motioned for them to come down and be in with the crowd. So they gave up their microphones and they joined the kirtan in front of the carts in the streets. And there were barbecue grills with charcoals in the grills with rock incense on the carts. If you've seen pictures, there's huge clouds of incense billowing out, barbecue grills like that with charcoal. At one point, the wheel axle of Subhadra's cart bent, and the wheel was compromised. We've had problems also, right, with cars. Subhadra seems to be the one that breaks down. Maybe she wants to get on with the other boys. So Narayan is like, I want 50 men to take off the wheel, hold up the cart, take off the wheel, which they did. And I want another 50 people to bend the wheel down. It was a steel bar that had been compromised from the other Rath Yatras that they'd used on the cars, so the axle had bent somehow, and they bent the steel up, put the wheel back on, and then the carts rolled. And so 7 miles to the sea. And the place that they ended at was called the edge of the Western world. It was a beach, but this edge of this beach part, sometimes there's cliffs that go down into the ocean. If you've ever driven that. Oh, yeah. Oh, there's Srila Prabhupada with the garlands. Who's doing the pictures? Thank you. Yeah, we do. So this is Srila Prabhupada with the gardenia garlands. Excuse me? This is the DVD? There we go. Yep. Play as we go. Here we go. I can speak. So the carts are rolling along. I haven't gotten into this tech age yet. Things can be done this way. Okay. So the festival ended at the Family Dog Auditorium. And the organizer at this Family Dog Auditorium, which held about 1,500 people max. I think it was fire coded for about 1,000. When the carts rolled up to this venue, to the Family Dog, there were by some accounts, 7,000 to 10,000 people on the beach, at the parking lot, and they were hippies. This was like a one-day Woodstock for everyone. They were dressed in costume, dressed as Krishna, dressed as in India garb, and it was like, it was a party, it was a festival. And the organizer of this one was the same one that had done Janis Joplin, Grateful Dead, Timothy Leary, Alan Watts, Riders of the Purple Sage, all these big rock groups of the time, who some of us may know. And he was also he had also partnered with the organizer at the Avalon Ballroom, which was January 29th, 1967, 3 years prior. And so this Family Dog event was widely publicized, and it was a big event. When anything happened at the Family Dog, the Avalon Ballroom, all the hippies attended. San Francisco at that time, as we know, was a mecca for a gathering place. And so 7,000 to 10,000 hippies attended this. And it was at this festival when Srila Prabhupada's opening phrases that he said, "I have come to make the hippies into happies." Like that. So when Srila Prabhupada entered, when he came in to the Family Dog Auditorium, everyone was there. The auditorium was full, and Srila Prabhupada walked in, and everyone offered their obeisances. The Hell's Angels were there, and Bhatta Narayan recounts that, and he said it was like, they had billy clubs and chains, and Hell's Angels, and when they offered their obeisances, all this clang, clang, clang happened. He said it reminded him of, when Lord Brahma's head hit the floor to offer his obeisances to Krishna. So as is going through Golden Gate Park, here we are. Amazing. So everybody that's here, plus everyone that was there waiting for the carts, this was huge. This was like amazing. So anybody was there? 1970. No. Yeah. So this is our festival. And Srila Prabhupada, when he after the festival, when he was leaving for the airport, Madhuvisa knelt down beside Srila Prabhupada's car, and he said, "Srila Prabhupada, did you like this? Did you like the festival?" And Srila Prabhupada pulled Madhavisa's head into his lap, and he rubbed his head, and he said, "I loved it." So here we are. You can see the smoke billowing out from the... Mm-hmm. Look how many people. Amazing. Amazing. I went to the Rath Yatra Festival in 1974, 5 that Srila Prabhupada also attended. And the carts went through Golden Gate Park with this. And I was a new devotee. I had no clue what was going on at the festival. You know, they said a festival, and I didn't know. I was cutting a lot of vegetables. Oh, and they cooked for this festival. Huge barrels, you know, and it was like a feast with sweets and puris and sabji and rice and halva. It's like only Srila Prabhupada could, you know, this ragtag band of transcendentalists could inspire us to put on such a grand event. I remember when I came back and walked back to the carts, and I remember seeing the carts, and they looked like ships on dry land with the silken canopies like billowing and waving like this. And I thought, the Hare Krishnas did this. And I thought, I'm a Hare Krishna. Like that. So, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you.